Welcome, UCL fans, to our Week 3 review of the United Championship League Off-Season Little Cup Tournament. I'm your host, Nintendo Fanatic 64, and I've watched all the matches to come up with a great news report for you. Now, I do have a common question of the day where I want to know what your favorite match of this last week was. Now, we're going to go ahead and start off in the Hoenn division. Now, the Pittsburgh Pichus and the Grand Canyon Greninjas, both with 0-2 records, their videos were not uploaded this week. Now, I don't know if they actually didn't have the match or if both of them just forgot to do it. I have been reaching out to both coaches as well as the UCL via Twitter, trying to find out what happened, but I have not heard anything back. So because of that, I'm going to give, for the purposes of this report, to give them draws this week for it. So they will be 0-2-1 for the remainder of the season until we either see the match get uploaded or they report something else to it. The other Hoenn match, big division rivalry match, we had the New York Yankees and the St. Louis Rampardos, both with 2-0 records. And it was a 1-0 victory for the St. Louis Rampardos. The MVP of the match goes to the team captain from the St. Louis Rampardos, the Craniados, who managed to get 2 knockouts this week. Moving on to the Sinnoh division, we have the Long Island Reggie-Rockies, whose record is 1-1, taking on the Durham Druddigons, whose record is also 1-1. And it was a 3-0 victory for the Long Island Reggie-Rockies. MVP of the match goes to Magby from the Long Island Reggie-Rockies with a 4-knockout sweep after setting up a belly drum. Up next, we had the Philadelphia Alligators, who are 0-2, taking on the Newcastle Nido-Kings, who were 2-0. There was a 3-0 victory for the Newcastle Nido-Kings. MVP of the match goes to Chinchou from the Newcastle Nido-Kings, who managed to get 3 knockouts this week. Moving on to the Kanto division, we have the South Beach Slow Kings with a 1-1 record, taking on the Bristol City Blazekins, who have a 0-2 record. And it was a 3-0 victory for the South Beach Slow Kings. MVP of the match goes to Drifloon. I was looking too far down. MVP of the match goes to Pawniard from the South Beach Slow Kings, who managed to get 3 knockouts this week. And then we have the Tulsa Talonflames, who were 1-1, taking on the Real Morrill, who were 2-0. And it was a 2-0 victory for the Real Morrill. MVP of the match goes to Drifloon from the Real Morrill, who managed to get 4 knockouts this week. Finally, we move on to the Johto division. We have the Tucson Terrakions, who were 1-1, taking on the Bronx Beartics, who were 2-0. And it was a 1-0 victory for the Bronx Beartics. MVP of the match goes to Growlithe from the Bronx Beartics, who managed to get 2 knockouts this week. In the final match, we have the Carolina Keldios, who were 1-1, taking on the Toronto Tokakis, who were 0-2. And it was a 1-0 victory for the Carolina Keldios. MVP of the match goes to Elekid from the Carolina Keldios, who managed to get 2 knockouts this week. So the current standings after 3 weeks, we have from the Hoenn division, we have the St. Louis Rampardos in first place with a 3-0 record. Right behind them are the New York Yankees with a 2-1 record. And then the Pittsburgh Pichus and the Grand Canyon Greninjas, of course, with no match this week, are both 0-2-1 for their division. In the Sinnoh division, we have the Newcastle Nido-Kings out in front with a 3-0 record. The Long Island Reggie-Rockies right behind with a 2-1 record. Durham Druddigons with a 1-2 record right behind them. And it was the Philadelphia Alligators rounding at the bottom with 0-3. In the Kanto division, we have the Real Morills with a 3-0 record. The South Beach Slow Kings with a 2-1 record right behind them. Tulsa Talonflames with a 1-2 record. And the Bristol City Blazekins with a 0-3 record. Finally, in the Johto division, we start off with the Bronx Beartics with their 3-0 record leading the division. The Carolina Keldios right behind them with a 2-1 record. Tucson Terrakions just behind them with a 1-2 record. And the Toronto Tokakis with an 0-3 record. Now, there's still a possibility for any of these teams to make it into the playoffs. For instance, the teams that are 0-3, if they win the next 3 matches and the division leaders lose the next 3 matches, then it could potentially be them going into the into the playoff spot or into the where they have to face with their team captains. There is even a unlikely but possible situation that all four teams could emerge out of this with 3-3 records. If that ends up being the case, considering they said that the team captains would have to go on a one-on-one battle, if that ends up happening, I believe that they would be having to do a free-for-all match to determine who would actually make it into the semifinals for it. But that's going to go ahead and wrap up for today's video. Please feel free to answer the comment question of the day. If you do enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. I try to do UCL content every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll even have a second video going up a little bit later on today, which will have our power rankings, since they're not based on the actual scores of everything. So, but thank you all very much for watching. Take care and good night.